All right, happy Friday, everybody. It's time for review day. So we're going to go do a quick few announcements. We'll go over the homework from last night, and then we're going to review the entire book and be done around about 12:15 or so, maybe a little earlier. So if you don't mind, some real quick announcements. Again, no recording, audio, video, no posting of any links, please. No foul language in discussions. If you have connection problems, close out all your apps and programs. There's a reset button up by your address bar. It's a little semicircle with an arrow on it. You can hit that and you'll log back in. It works and it goes well. Admin questions. Guys, there's no admin session today since it's a half day. However, if you need your questions answered, you can always contact the school and they will return your call or inquiry at some point. I can't guarantee anything. I don't know what the school does. So if you have any other questions, guys, I'll stick around a few minutes when we're done around 12 or so, 12:15. We're going to take a brief break. There's not going to be a half-hour coffee break this morning. I'm going to take maybe a 15, maybe a 20-minute coffee break around 10:30. And then we're going to continue in the review. That's why we're getting out of here at 12:15. We'll be done by then. And as always, for you guys, we don't have to worry about it today, but when you do come to class, make sure you pre-read your chapter. So there is a coffee break, Sean. Don't be spreading fake rumors around. What are you, fake media, Sean? Come on, stop that. We are going to take a coffee break, so just chill. So anyway, if you're starting today, my name is Tim Jensen. I'm your instructor. I'm ready from Friday, but today's not a great day to start because it's a review day. We're not going over any chapters in the book. This is a review of the entire book. But if you did start in the last few days and you don't know if review is good enough for you or not, well, it is, because you can't get hurt by reviewing information. So again, just chill out. Take your time. We're going to get a minute a question for those math questions. We're going to spend a few minutes doing those each, and I'll work the math with you. And there's not a lot. So I'm going to moderate the conversation while I just do the homework review, and then I'll open it up for any general questions before we start the general review. So if you don't mind, let's go over chapters 19, 20, and 21 from last night. That way, we can get that out of the way and just concentrate on the review. So chapter 19, homework questions are as follows. Number 1, A. 2, B for boy. 3A, 4C, 5C, 6D as in dog, 7D as in dog, 8D as in dog, 9C, and 10A. Once again, chapter 19 homework questions are as follows. Number 1A, 2, B for boy, 3A, 4C, 5C, 6D as in dog, 7D dog, 8D dog, 9C, and 10A. For chapter 20, the homework questions are number 1, B boy, 2, C, 3B as in boy, 4B as in boy, 5C, 6B as in boy, 7C, 8D as in dog, 9B for boy, and 10B for boy. Again, chapter 20 homework questions are as follows. Number 1, B boy, 2, C, 3, B boy, 4, B boy, 5, C, 6, B boy, 7, C, 8, D dog, 9, B boy, and 10, B boy. For chapter 21, the homework answers are number 1, C, 2, D for dog, 3, C, 4, B for boy, 5B for boy, 6D as in dog, 7B for boy, 8B for boy, 9B for boy, and 10C. Once again, for chapter 21, the homework answers are number 1, C, 2, D, dog, 3, C, 4B, boy, 5B, boy, 6D, dog, 7B, boy, 8B, boy, 9B, boy, and 10C. So are there any general questions before we get started on our review? I see a couple people with their dialogue bars open, but I'm not seeing a lot of questions. Chapter 21, question 21. I'm sorry. Oh, question 2. I'm sorry. I chose D, but thought long about A2. Thoughts? Let me pull up chapter 21, question number 2. An abstract of title does not provide evidence of title unless, and this is what we went over yesterday, is accompanied by letter, legal opinion of title. D is a no. No. Standing alone, the top copy of the title insurance is one thing, but with an abstract, no, the abstract has to be accompanied by the attorney's opinion of title for it to be valid. Chapter 20, number 2, says Manal. 20, number 2. With regards to adverse possession, C is the only answer that fits. The person taking possession of the property must use the land without the owner's consent. That is correct. All right, not seeing any other questions. Are you guys ready? If not, too bad. If you are, then here we go, guys. It's time to review. You can use your book. You can use your notes. You can use any information you have stored or written down or highlighted to answer these questions. We're going to take 1 minute per question. Now, in the state exam, you'll actually have almost like 2 whole minutes to answer a question. In some answer, you actually 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. I want to put the screws to you because I'm testing you here. I want to know what you know, how you know it, how good you recall it. If you don't perform well, then maybe it's an indicator of that I'm not doing a good job instructing. So I need to make sure that we do things so we can get a result. Your scores you can keep personally. This review is not in the book. It is not anything else we offer. So if you're ready, I'm ready. So here we go. All right, the first half of the questions are here as follows. Number 1, 2 men own a parcel of land as joint tenants. One of them dies and his will stipulates that his interest will pass to his wife and upon her death to his children. What type of estate do the children have? Yeah, 1 minute. Two men own a parcel of land as joint tenants. One of them dies and his will stipulates that His interest will pass to his wife, and upon her death to his children. What type of estate do the children have? Ten seconds. Okay, time's up. Pens down. Well, pens down. The answer is, of which 40% of you correctly answered, was D, no estate. Why? It was a life estate. Right of survivor. The co-owner got the interest, not the family. D for dog. Number two, something of value offered by one party and accepted by another as inducement to perform is called excuse me. Something of value offered by one party and accepted by another as inducement to perform is called excuse me. 5 seconds. Time's up. The answer is D, consideration. Consideration. Number three, the unities of time, title, interest, and possession are directly connected with the unities of time, title, interest, and possession are directly connected with. Ten seconds. Time's up. It is directly connected with 40% answering correctly. D, joint tenancy. Must have all unities and the right of survivorship for joint tenancy. Number four, most agency relationships in real estate transactions are most agency relationships in real estate transactions are 10 seconds. Okay, time's up. Most agency relationships in real estate transactions are 55% of you correctly answered A, special agencies. Number five, a seller's broker must transmit to her principal A seller's broker must transmit to her principal 10 seconds. Time's up, and 81% of you correctly answered D, all written offers. Yes, well done. Number 6, if the owners of property sell it themselves, even though they have an exclusive agency listing with a broker, they owe the broker if the owner of property sell it themselves, even though they have an exclusive agency listing with a broker, they owe the broker 10 seconds. Time is up, and 48% of you correctly answered D, no commission. Exclusive agency, the seller has the right to sell it and pay no commission. Number 7, which of the following does not hold a leasehold estate? Which of the following does not hold a leasehold estate? Ten seconds. Time is up. And it looks like 21% of us got it correct. It is B for boy, a life tenant. A life tenant has an interest under a freehold estate interest, not a leasehold estate. Number 8, a loan used for temporary financing is a loan used for temporary financing is a Okay, now I'm seeing people change their answers. Not a good tactic, and there's only 5 seconds left. Not a good idea to change your answers. Time is up. And from your responses, 66% of you correctly answered C, a construction loan. Yes, several of you guys answered that and changed your questions. Here's a hint, guys. When you take a test, your first gut reaction is usually the best, just so you know. Number 9, Regulation Z requires the disclosure of which of the following? Regulation Z requires the disclosure of which of the following? Ten seconds. Time is up. And only 30% of us got it correct. And is APR, the annual percentage rate, must be disclosed, along with the simple interest rate. RESPA, Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, no. NAR, National Association of Realtors. CMA, Comparative Market Analysis, only APR worked. Number 10, in a sale leaseback agreement, the be good spot to know your terms here. In a sale leaseback agreement, the. Ten seconds. Time is up, and 61% of you correctly answered C. The grantor becomes the lessee. C is correct. 11, a man and a woman are not married, but own property together. The man dies in an accident, and the woman now owns the property in severalty. The man and the woman must have held title in. A man and a woman are not married but own property together. The man dies in an accident and the woman now owns the property in severalty. The man and the woman must have held title in. 10 seconds. Time is up. 65% of you correctly answered D, joint tenancy. The right of survivorship guarantees the survivor the property is now theirs all at once. That one person now owns the property. Number 12, when a lease provides that the lessee shall be responsible for all expenses, it is known as a. When a lease provides that the lessee shall be responsible for all expenses, it is known as a. 10 seconds. Time is up. Well, a lessee is the tenant. Therefore, that would mean it is C, a net lease, and 55% of you got it correct, C. Number 13, the lease that requires no advance notification to terminate it at the end of its term is called. The lease that requires no advance notification to terminate it at the end of the term is called. Ten seconds. Time is up. And that is an estate for years. 40% of you correctly answered C. Since an estate for years, we have a beginning and a known end date. And when that happens, no advance notification is required. Number 14. The clause in a mortgage that provides for the entire balance of the mortgage loan to be immediately due and payable because of the borrower's default is called. The clause in a mortgage that provides for the entire balance of the mortgage loan to be immediately due and payable because of the borrower's default is called. Ten seconds. Time is up, and 73% of you got it correct. C, an acceleration clause. Very good. Number 15, a contract that has been fully performed on by the parties is called. A contract that has been fully performed on by the parties is called a what? Ten seconds. Time is up, and an awesome 85% of you got it correct. C, an executed contract. Yes, well done. Number 16, the cost approach would most likely be used for which of the following? The cost approach would most likely be used for which of the following? Ten seconds. Time is up, and 44% of you correctly identified it as a public building. Single family, you can use a sales comparison approach. Apartment building, office building, income approach. Public building, chances are there's nothing like it and it doesn't produce income, cost approach. 17. Which of the following liens takes precedence over all the others? Which of the following liens takes precedence over all the others? Ten seconds. Time is up, and 27% of us got it correct. C, delinquent special assessment charges. They are a form of property tax, and property taxes must always be paid before even the first bank debt is paid. C is correct. 18, if an owner in severalty dies testate, the property will be if an owner in severalty dies testate, the property will be. Got to remember what your terms mean. 10 seconds. Time is up. And 41% of you correctly identified B as the appropriate answer. Probated and passed on to the owner's devisees. Dying testate means you left a will. A will is a devise. Therefore, the people who receive it are devisees. B for boy was correct. 19. If a certain income producing property has a high degree of risk to the potential investor, the capitalization rate used will tend to be if a certain income producing property has a high degree of risk to the potential investor, the capitalization rate used will tend to be 10 seconds. Time is up. And the answer, of which 44% of you got correct, was B for boy. It would be higher, thus producing a lower value. Correct. Number 20, in a blanket mortgage, what clause gives the developer the right to sell an individual lot without having to pay off the entire principal amount? We talked about that on Tuesday. In a blanket mortgage, what clause gives the developer the right to sell an individual lot without having to pay off the entire principal amount? Ten seconds. Time's up. And 60% of you got it correct. C, a partial release clause. Yes. Number 21, the smallest unit of measure in the rectangular survey system is known as a. The smallest unit of measure in the rectangular survey system is known as a. Ten seconds. Time's up. And good for you, 68% of you got B for boy, a section which is 1 mile by 1 mile. Number 22. A woman gives a parcel of land to a man with an express condition in the deed that if the man builds an office building on the land, that the parcel will revert back to the woman. This is an example of a. A woman gives a parcel of land to a man with an express condition in the deed that if the man builds an office building on the land, the parcel will revert back to the woman. This is an example of a. 10 seconds. Time is up, and there will be great weeping and gnashing of teeth when I tell you what the answer is. It is B for boy, a fee simple determinable interest. Why? Because it was a conditional interest with a reverter clause. A deed restriction doesn't include reverter clauses. Therefore, a B for boy would be the correct answer. Number 23, if a woman is legally occupying and using a single family structure, her interest in the real estate could not include which of the following? If a woman is legally occupying and using a single family structure, her interest in the real estate could not include which of the following? Ten seconds. Time's up, and 62% of you got it correct. It would be C, an estate at sufferance. It could not be that because she's there legally. There's no problem with her tenancy. Number 24, TRID considers a loan application complete when the borrowers, I must have said this a half a dozen times. TRID considers a loan application complete when the borrowers 10 seconds. Time is up. And that is when they submit the aliens information. 47% of you correctly answered D as the answer. Yes. 25. A court decree which declares that an individual is indebted to another and fixes the amount of that debt is called a court decree which declares that an individual is indebted to another and fixes the amount of the debt is called a 10 seconds. Time is up. It is called a judgment, of which 63% of you correctly answered C, a judgment. 26. The federal government will require disclosure in a property of the known presence of the federal government will require disclosure in a property of the known presence of 10 seconds. And correctly answering was 61% of you. The letter B, lead. Lead is the only federal requirement in our contracts for disclosure. Number 27, which of the following is not an involuntary alienation of property? Which of the following is not an involuntary alienation of property? Ten seconds. Time is up, and 68% of you correctly answered B, devise, which means a will, which is voluntary, and that's the answer they were looking for. The other three are involuntary. 28, excuse me, liquidation of a loan in equal installments that include principal and interest is called liquidation of a loan in equal installments that include principal and interest is called 10 seconds. Time's up, and 78% of you correctly answered C, amortization. Good for you guys. Good job. Number 29, the procedure by which a party to a contract is fully discharged of all responsibility and another party takes his or her place with agreement by both parties is known as, excuse me, the procedure by which a party to a contract is fully discharged of all responsibility and another party takes his or her place with agreement by both parties is known as, 10 seconds. Time's up. It is known as, 50% of you got it, C, novation. Novation. Number 30, when a purchaser buys subject to an existing mortgage, everybody froze. What happened? When a purchaser buys subject to an existing mortgage, ten seconds. Time's up, and 12% of you actually got the right answer. It is B for boy. The purchaser is not personally liable for the note or bond. The seller still is. Number 31, compliance with the Lead Paste Paint Hazard Reduction Act is important to real estate agents because its regulations specifically require real estate agents to compliance with the Lead-Based Paint Hazard Reduction Act is important to real estate agents because its regulations specifically require real estate agents to seconds. All right, 53% of you correctly answered B for boy, ensure compliance. Realtors have to have that lead paint disclosure form signed by buyer and seller or landlord and tenant in every transaction. So yeah, ensure compliance, B. 32. In a real estate advertisement that includes information on mortgage financing, which of the following is permissible under the truth in lending law without the necessity to add qualifying words? In a real estate advertisement that includes information on mortgage financing, which of the following is permissible under the truth in lending law without the necessity to add qualifying words? Ten seconds. Time's up, and 67% of you, 2 out of 3 got it correct. B, liberal terms available. You're not using a trigger term, therefore you don't have to put any other additional disclosures. Number 33, a court action brought to remedy a gap in the chain of title is called, just talked about it yesterday. A court action brought to remedy a gap in the chain of title is called. Ten seconds. Time is up. It is called a suit to quiet title. 50% of you had that correct. C. 34. A listing contract in which the listing broker's commission is based upon procuring a buyer before the property is sold by the owner or another broker is what? A listing contract in which the listing broker's commission is based upon procuring a buyer before the property is sold by the owner or another broker is, excuse me, 10 seconds. It is an open listing, and 53% of you correctly answered B for boy. Well done. All right, here's a math question. Going to be a lot longer than a minute, and I'll do the math with you, but I'd like to see how many can get this correct before I do. A purchaser buys a home for $102,000. She applies for an FHA mortgage loan and learns that the FHA will insure 97% of the first $25,000 of the purchase price and 95% of the balance. If the lender charges the purchaser 3 points, then how much cash will actually be advanced to the purchaser? Go. No time frame. Okay, not a lot of response here. I don't blame you. So let's go to the whiteboard and see what we can come up with an answer. First of all, she's buying a $102,000 house, right? And the FHA is going to insure 97% of the first 25,000. So therefore, $24,250. Now, 102,000 minus 25,000 equals 77,000. That's left, which is the second amount they'll insure at 95%. So they're going to insure $73,150. That means they're going to advance her $97,400. That's the loan amount so far. However, remember, she has to pay how many? 3 points, which is 3% of the loan amount. Therefore, in points, she has to pay $2,922 in points. So if they're advancing her 97.4, then 102,000 minus 97.4 equals, just a second, 4,600 down plus the 2,922 equals a total down payment from the borrower of $7,522, which includes the points. So then 102,000 minus 7522, that's a zero, there's nothing there. 7522 equals, they're going to give her $94,478. That is the answer, which is represented by letter B on your choices. Once again, let me go through this math with you so you have a good understanding of how we did it. She's buying a house for $102,000. The FHA insures 97% of the first $25,000, so they're going to give her $24,250. They're going to represent 95% of the second amount, so 25 from 102 leaves 77,000. Okay, and that is 73,150. Got that? Together, that's 97,400. So far, they're going to give her a loan. But she also has to give 3 points, which is 2922. 102,000 minus 97.4 equals 4,600 plus the 2922 points equals out of pocket 7522. Subtract from 102, the bank is going to give her 94,478. And that's how you do the math for that kind of question. Is this a kind of typical math question they may ask on a test? There is no typical math question. This is one of the harder ones, obviously. But anyway, that's how you do the math for that type of a question. Moving on, number 36. The type of deed that warrants only that the grantor has not impaired the title during the period or the term in which he had held it is referred to as the type of deed that warrants only that the grantor has not impaired the title during the term in which he held it is referred to as a 10 seconds. Time's up, and 29% of you correctly answered C, a bargain and sale deed with covenants against Grantors Act. That's the only one that fits the description of the question. Number 37, a woman died and left a 10-acre piece of land to her brother. This is a woman died and left a 10-acre piece of land to her brother. This is a 10 seconds. Some of you guys did it again. You changed your answers. And the answer is 71% agree and are correct, choosing C, a devise. Yes, so there were several people that had that correct and changed their answers. Guys, again, your first gut reaction is usually the best answer, just saying. 38. A bank that insists on a $20,000 down payment to purchase a $100,000 home requires a bank that insists on a $20,000 down payment to purchase a $100,000 home requires 5 seconds. And it requires an 80% loan to value ratio. 60% of you correctly answered C, yes. 39, an in rem proceeding is directly associated with a An in rem proceeding is directly associated with a 10 seconds. You guys do know this is an open book review, right? Time is up. An in rem proceeding is usually done in a tax foreclosure. Only 22% of us had that correct. A. In rem is when the municipality buys the tax debt. That's called in rem. A is correct. Number 40. The Truth in Renting Act does not apply to. Excuse me. The Truth in Renting Act does not apply to. Ten seconds. It does not apply to properties with fewer than 3 units, and 52% of you correctly answered D for dog. 41. Who is responsible for explaining to buyers the topics in the booklet, Your Home Loan Toolkit, a step-by-step guide? Who is responsible for explaining to buyers the topics in the booklet, Your Home Loan Toolkit, a step-by-step guide? Ten seconds. And from those who responded, 70% of you correctly answered B. No one. No one is responsible to explain those concepts. 42. After borrowers have indicated an intent to proceed, the lender. Hmm, hmm. After borrowers have indicated an intent to proceed, the lender. 10 seconds. Time's up. Can ask for additional fees to process the loan application. 33% of you correctly answered D. 43. What is the maximum penalty for the first violation of the Federal Fair Housing Act? What is the maximum penalty for the first violation of the Federal Fair Housing Act? 10 seconds. And the answer is 55% correctly said D, $19,787. Number 44. A property at the end of 3 years was valued at $82,500. It has depreciated 2.5% during each of the 3 years. What was the original value? This is a math question. Take your time. All right, let's work this one out. I'll give you a few seconds. Go ahead. So let's work this one out. $82,500 is what the property currently is worth. It had dropped 2.5% per year in value for the past 3 years. That means originally the price must have been higher. 2.5 times 3 is 7.5, which means out of 100%, it lost 7.5%. So the 82,500 represents 92.5% of the original value. So you have to remember the percent. So 82,500 times 92.5% equals the original value was $89,189. From the responses, 39% of you who did answer correctly identified D as the answer. One more time. Property at the end of 3 years was valued at $82,500. It depreciated 2.5% for 3 years, each year. For a total of 7.5%, it has depreciated, which means the 82,500 represents 92.5% of the original value. 82,500 times 92.5% equals the value that she originally bought the property for at $89,189. Number 45. What law prohibits all racial discrimination in housing with no exception? What law prohibits all racial discrimination in housing with no exceptions? Another case of a lot of folks changing their answers again. And from those who responded, only 24% got it correct. There was a higher amount. And the answer is A, the Civil Rights Act of 1866 prohibits all discrimination on race and has no exceptions. A is the only correct choice. Number 46. Which of the following is not an approach to value? Which of the following is not an approach to value? Ten seconds. Time's up. 67% of you correctly answered C, the original cost to owner. That's not approach to value and actually has nothing to do with current values. So original cost has nothing to do with it. C is correct. 47, the income capitalized to determine value is the the income capitalized to determine value is ten seconds. Time's up. 53% of you correctly answered C, the annual net operating income. C is correct. 48. Which of the following statements about the assignment of contracts is false? Which of the following statements about the assignment of contracts is false? Ten seconds. Time's up. And 44% of us got it correct. In an assignment, the assignor is released of all liabilities. C is correct. That's the false statement. C. Yes. 49. The purchaser in a real estate sales contract breaches the contract and does not go through with the purchase. The contract stipulates that the seller may keep the earnest money. This is known as the purchaser in a real estate sales contract breaches the contract and does not go through with the purchase. The contract stipulates that the seller may keep their earnest money. This is known as, again, terms, guys. Everything's about terms. 10 seconds. Time's up. When a purchaser defaults on a contract, it's called B, liquidation damages. 21% of you got that correct. If the seller defaulted, it's called compensatory damages. Number 50. Which of the following most accurately describes a property manager? Which of the following most accurately describes a property manager? Hmm. 10 seconds. And then what most accurately describes a property manager is a fiduciary, and 52% of you had that correct. C, very good. 51, last 5 questions before we take a break. 51, the approach that uses the concept of depreciation is the approach that uses the concept of depreciation is the 10 seconds. Time's up. And 49% of you correctly answered B for boy, the cost approach. Remember, depreciation is through wear and tear and through functional obsolescence and external or economic obsolescence. B for boy. Math question 52. Here we go. A woman sold her property for $150,000. She realized a 20% return on her investment. How much did she originally pay for the property? Oh, a few more seconds before I'll show you the math. But so far, only a small percentage of folks are getting this one correct. So let's do the math and find out how we're supposed to do math on this one. First of all, property, $150,000. It appreciated, right, by 20%. So the current property is worth 120% of its original value. That means the property's original value was $125,000. And only a little bit, only 25% of us got that one correct. What you guys did is you took 150 times 20% and minused it. Wrong. The 150 represents 120% of the original value. So 150 times the 120% equals the original value of 125,000. All right. So C was the correct answer. So last 3 questions, guys, before we take a break. Number 53. If two similar houses are for sale in a certain location, the one with the lower price is usually bought first. This is the principle of. If two similar houses are for sale in a certain location, the one with the lower price is usually bought first. This is the principle of. by the way, that's all the math for the entire review, guys. I'm only going to hit you up with three math questions. 5 seconds. So the answer is A, 41% correctly answered. Substitution is the principle. Number 54, the approach that allows for up and down adjustments to different properties to arrive at a value for the subject property is called the approach that allows for up and down adjustments to different properties to arrive at a value for a subject property is called the 10 seconds. It's called the 81% of you correctly answered D, sales comparison approach. Very good. D for dog. And then finally, for the last question for our first half of the review, a property manager's responsibilities generally do not include which of the following? A property manager's responsibilities generally do not include which of the following? Ten seconds. Time is up, and 82% of you correctly answered B for boy, investing profits. Yes, that's usually not a property manager's job, obviously. All right, good responses for the first half of the review. It is now 10:30. It is time for a coffee break. Guys, let's take 20 minutes for a coffee break and be back ready to start at 10 minutes to 11. I will leave the conversation section open, talk amongst yourselves, conspire, do whatever you want to do. But I will be back at 10 minutes of 11, and we are going to pick up with our review. So I will see you then.